Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Trey Francis. It's been it's been a week. I'm just not getting into this video because it's been a lot. But hopefully this is keeping me in frame because whatever this comes out as, I'm posting. Um, this is a video for Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 6, Meet Me in Daegu, or whatever, because I don't speak that language. But anyways, so we're in the middle of the Korean War, right? It's 1950s, we're in the middle of the Korean War. It's 1950, starts off in 1949, but then we get to 1950 where we're in the middle of the Korean War. We kind of go back to meet this character almost as if she has like this episode by herself primarily, but we're learning about this character whom when we jump back to like the present day, we're going to she's gonna play a bigger role, right? I think as we finish off this series, because we're on episode 6, right? So I think we have 4 episodes left. So this character Gia, she's going to be playing a bigger role, I feel like, in these next coming episodes. So let's just get into this. So at the opening, we see Gia. She's at the movie theater. She's watching this movie. It's with Judy Garland, I believe. And she's just like enamored with Judy Garland. Like she's enamored with like Hollywood. She loves film. In her imagination, she daydreams about being up on the stage and singing and dancing to the songs and acting out the songs herself, right? Right. So she's this girl who sort of is this dreamer, right? She has a bigger world view, if you will, about, sort of like getting out of like the everyday sort of mundane life that sometimes one can lead, right? Right. So we see that at the beginning of this episode, Gia's mom, whom is this, I'm gonna try to help break down because it's very weird. It's weird how some of these things are set up in this particular episode, but upon watching it a second time, I sort of started to figure some things out, right? Right. So Gia's mom is basically instructing her to bring home a man. Bring home a man. We need to bring home a man. We need for you to bring home a man so that honor and respect is brought back to our family, because Gia's mom is single as we see her at this point, and so it is incumbent for Gia to meet a guy that wants to marry her, right? And then this will restore honor and respect to her family's name. So we see Gia go out on these speed dates, right, with another friend of hers, and her friend gets a date, but Gia doesn't. And so her friend's like, hey, you know what? Don't go home. Actually come out to the bar with us, and you can have him. Like, you can just come out. Don't go home. Come out. You never know who you're gonna meet. So of course, Gia goes out. We see her meet this guy at the bar, and we're like, oh, okay. We had Besame Mucho playing in the background, which is like Kiss Me a Lot or whatever the case may be in Spanish. I was like, okay, she about to get her freak on, right? So she takes this man back to her place, and it was weird because I was like, is this man, like, please someone help me understand. I was like, is this man her mother's husband? But it's not Gia's father. That was my understanding of it, right? It's this guy that her mom, Uma, married. It's not Gia's father. And so he goes to bed with Gia. And I was like, oh, he cute. But Gia, they having a good time. He climaxes, and next thing we know, we see these long like tentacles, right? These things come out, or whatever the case may be, and it basically, I think it's about I think it's a Chinese like folklore about this like fox with like 8 tails or something like that, or 9 tails, I think it is. And so all these tails start to come out. They're basically strangling him. The one go up the ass, one 2 go in the eyes, like 2 in the ears, like basically any hole that you have, it's trying to get up in that. And so when she goes, and when the things come out of her eyes and go into his eyes, she starts to see like his whole life that he's led from when he was a child all the way up to his future, what his future would be. And then she basically murders him. He is murdered. um, she kills him. And so we come to find out, this is the summer of 1950s, we come to find out that Gia has this hold on, let me get this right because I don't want to. It's a kumiho, I think that's how you say it, kumiho. She has this thing inside of her, which is this box with the 9 tails or whatever it can be. This is inside of her, and we find out that unless she kills 100 souls, unless she gets 100 men and take 100 souls, right? Men who have wronged people, men who are basically disgustos, then this is going to stay within her. And so Uma sees the physical appearance of her daughter. However, the demon or whatever that is in her, that's not her daughter, she says. Like, so she actually speaks down to Gia, but she's speaking down to the kumiho that's inside of her and not really talking to Gia. But then Gia's exterior is like fighting for her mother's acceptance and for her mother's love and all that kind of stuff. So it's multi-layered because it's almost like with the Gia character, there's 2 characters being played at the same time within one, if that makes sense. So yeah. So next thing we see is that it's the summer of 1950 and the Americans arrive basically to ruin and fuck shit up. So right, they're here. We're in the midst of the Korean War. Gia she's going to nursing school, so she's one of the nurses at this clinic, if you will. And so as these soldiers are coming in, her and the rest of the nurses, the Korean nurses, they're mending them. You know, some of them have to be, you know, amputees, all these different types of things. They're helping them out during this war. So, hold on. Did I skip ahead to summer 1950? No, that's right. Okay. So, so we see Gia. She has this conversation with, so the way that we find out about the kumiho that's in her is that she's having this conversation with Uma, and Uma is basically telling her, hey, since last summer, basically to this summer, she's killed eight other men, so, or the spirit or whatever has killed 8 other men, and so you have 2 more to kill. So when she's out, she sees an American soldier, and she takes him back home and she murders him, right? So she has 1 more to go. So then Gia starts to feel like, hey, like, I'm different, but this is me, and like, if you're not going to accept me for who I am, like, I can't help that. But she kind of gets to this space where she tells Uma that she's not going to take another life. Like, that's just not who she is. And you're basically saying that, you know, like, you basically want me to be this monster, and I'm not trying to be this monster. So we also find out that Uma's husband, so like I said, it wasn't Gia's father. I thought it was Gia's father, but it wasn't. Who is not Gia's father, that Uma married him so that she could rid herself of the shame and disgrace that was placed upon her because she had had a child out of wedlock, which is Gia. But remember, Gia's soul or whatever is not in her because the kumiho took that place, right? So because of this, she married the first man that showed her some attention, and this man turned out to be someone who was raping Gia, was basically sexually like molesting Gia. And so Gia, then I guess that's the guy that we saw her see in the thing. He still got eyes for her, nasty ass. So she takes him home and he murdered, right? Because it's men who've done bad things. So, so then we move on and we get to the part of the story where we start to, the Americans are here, right? We see them pull up with all the nurses from a particular shift, which is Gia's shift. And, essentially they want to know which one of them are traitors, which one of them are giving, like, feeding the communist, you know, who's giving them information, right? Who's giving them information? Who is it? It's one of y'all. We've narrowed it down to this shift. So between this time period, so we know it's one of y'all. Who is it? So they go, boom, they shoot one person. Come up, get ready to shoot another person. And the person who was doing it, one of the soldiers, his gun clicks, and so he doesn't have any more bullets. So he calls up none other than Tick. Remember, Tick is one of the American soldiers who's come and he fought in the Korean War. And so we've seen him have flashbacks of this earlier on in the previous episodes and whatnot. And so here he is. He comes up. he's doing as he is told, right? He is just doing in order. He comes up and he shoots the first girl, right? Blasts all her blood and stuff all over Gia. So now he moves over to Gia. They ask, are you a traitor? He points his gun at her because basically we need somebody to own up. If no one owns up, then everyone's going to get shot, because although we won't know who the traitor is, at least we won't have to worry about anyone making any more information, because this is going to set an example, right? So he's pointing the gun at Gia, and as he points the gun at Gia, Gia's best friend gets in front of Gia and she confesses, hey, it's me. I'm the traitor. Because remember earlier in the episode, she was telling Gia that she thought communism was good for them. She thought it was good for them, whereas that's not something that Gia, I guess, necessarily believed in. So who knew she was telling these secrets? But they found out about her, so they punch her in her face with the Glock and then pull her off. I don't know if they had a Glock back then, but whatever gun they had, they drag her off, and this is the last day that Gia ever sees her. So next thing we see is that Tick is wounded, and so he shows up at the for medical assistance where Gia works at this nursery, right? Or this as a nurse at this clinic. So she sees him in like vengeance, this is rage. It fills her up, and she's basically like, I'm gonna take this person out. She had already told Uma that wasn't a part of her. She didn't want to be doing it anymore. But now she wants to avenge her best friend, because Tick was one of the soldiers. We don't know that at this point, we don't know that he had any involvement necessarily with her killing. However, just the Americans as a whole, she's grouping them all together. You were responsible. You were a part of this. I must avenge my best friend. And so that's where we're at. So next thing we do is Tick, we see Tick's, they're out there on the playground, whatever the case may be, that they're playing. And Tick calls himself fancying Gia. And so he's out there flirting on the playground. When the ball rolls over there, he picks up the ball and he's wounded still, right? He goes to give it to her and he's pulling it back and stuff. So we're seeing this meet cute, right? We're seeing them have this cute little meeting between the two of them. And because of this, right, and because, Gia wants love. She loves the Judy Garland movies where she's falling in love and things like this. Gia, there's this romanticism that she has about that sort of life. And so it's making it a difficult task for Gia to fully commit to taking Tick's life, because she is starting to catch feelings for him herself, or that's basically what it is. So anyways, so Tick tells Gia basically about his bad relationship with his father, and Gia also, she can relate, right? Because with her Uma, there is this disconnect for them too, you know what I mean? Partly because of the Kumiho. However, it still is this thing where it's like she wants to change me. My mother wants to change me, your father wanted to change you. And Tick basically says like he took to books to escape, which is I relate to a lot, because when I was younger, that was my escapism from my reality, my daily reality. So I took to books to escape as well, and then I moved across the country. So I stayed in the country, but I moved literally to the opposite coast over to California to get away. And so I understand also running from it, because books soon become not enough, right? So I understand that, and I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to on one scale or another. So they're connecting they build this connection on basically their parental figures trying to turn them into something that they feel that they are not. So then Tick set up a romantic date. We see he sets up this romantic date with Gia where he has the screen up and the film's rolling, and it's a Judy Garland film, and they sit down and watch it. They share their first kiss for the first time, and then Gia so calls herself taking her back to her house. I was like, oh, so she's still on this killing shit. So I was like, oh, she about to murder him. So she takes him back, and she as she's enjoying herself, because it looked like love making to me. Like he was, it looked like some love making to me. And so as he going, he has his face in place, whatever it case to be. And as she's enjoying herself, she starts to enjoy herself too much that she's unable to control the foxtails, and they start to come out. They coming out. She noticed that they started to come out, so she's trying to grab them and strangle them or whatever the case may be. And she has the foxtails have him suspended in the air, and so she's grabbing these ones, but she can't take these, right? Because her hands are full. And so they burst out of her eyes, they burst into his, and she starts to see his life. Remember, their lives flash before her eyes. That's one of the things that happens before she murders them, which is just like, how cruel is that? Because you see the good and bad in people, you know what I mean? And you can, and that means you would then see like what led someone to be a bad person. Because remember, she's only killing bad men, or men, you know, men who've done things wrong. And so she sees Tick's life flashes before her eyes. She sees the good, the bad, the ugly, the in between, just everything, right? And part of this, she sees Tick getting abused by his father. She sees Tick holding her best friend's mouth open, and they're pulling her teeth out. And I'm just like, I can't eat, like, ooh. So it looks like he was at least a part of the pain that she felt before she passed. And then she also sees that Tick is going to die. Tick is going to be murdered. So she's able to free herself, her tails from him. She throws him forward. She starts to regain control of herself. The things disappear, and she tells him, oh, I kind of jumped ahead. This first encounter, she just stopped herself from making love to him, because I think partly because he was a virgin, maybe, but then partly because she was like, I know what can happen if I completely surrender. I know what can happen. So I'm sorry. I want to go tell y'all some of this stuff. But anyways, Gia also admits to him that she tried to kill him for taking her friend's life, but now that he saved her, right? He's done something for her, and so she's conflicted in her feelings towards what it is that she wants to do to them. So then they go back to having a movie night alone, and they consummate their relationship. So I skipped over this part, but they have a good moment for the first time, but they're not in her dojo or whatever. They're not in her home. I'm sorry if that comes off wrong. They're not in her home. That's what I should say. They're back at where they had their first film night. They have another film night, and so they consummate their relationship there. Then we jump to winter 1950s, and we learn that the spirit is summoned into, she's reading him this book and basically giving her this information, and she's reading it as if it's just a story, but it's basically the story of what happened to her, right? So she's reading this book, this tale about how the spirit, the Kamiho, is summoned into a woman to avenge the wrong done by men, which I've already said earlier, right? So Tick reveals that he has enough points or whatever to transfer back to the U.S. He can be done here, right? Because the war really didn't serve him. After he came out over here to the war to get some more escapism, the war was too much, and so he went back to books and was like, you know what, books are gonna have to do. So he has this conundrum, right? He's conflicted about whether he should stay because he loves Gia and he wants her to come with him, and she's just like, I can't do that, right? And so they go to bed that night not having made a decision. Tick hasn't made a decision about whether he's going to stay or go, and Gia hasn't made a decision technically about whether she would leave and go with him if he did leave, or if what would happen if they would stay there. But I feel like if he would stay there and he would do another term or whatever you call it in the war, I don't know, but whatever you would do, if he would stay and he would do another term, then this would give them a chance to be together longer, right? And maybe then Gia can figure out her stuff and she would be ready for him, like when he's ready to go to the U.S., she would then be ready to go with him. So then now they're at her home, and then they go that story that I was telling like 3 or 4 minutes ago. Now that part starts happening where the things go into his eyes. She sees his whole life. She basically comes to herself and she saves him, and she reveals a truth. She tells him basically that don't go back home, because if you go back home, you're gonna die, right? So Tick's freaked out, right? Because he's like, what the fuck just happened? So this is like his first like encounter as we know it with seeing anything supernatural or mythical in this way. And so he runs out, he's terrified. He going back home, as would I if I would have encountered that. So he runs out of that hole. He goes home back to America, as we know. And so when we see him making these phone calls, and we hear the voices on the other side of the phone, and we heard her in the last episode, I told you not to go back home, like, you're gonna die. Like, that's it. That's just, so now we're gonna figure out what the fuck is about to happen. The heat is definitely about to be turned up in the kitchen. Something is about to happen to Tick, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it as a viewer watching the show to see how he gets out of the mess that he's in. So of course at the end it closes with Gia and her Uma going to see the shaman to find out if Tick is really going to die. And the lady was like, hey, you came to me asking me for answers. You haven't even killed 100. You stopped shy of 100. You stopped one shy of 100. Like, you haven't can finish your thing. And Gia's basically like, this is the first time this has ever happened to me. I saw that someone was going to die, and it wasn't by my hands. It wasn't by my doing. They have a different fate. And the lady was like, you know what? You're worried about the wrong things. You're worried about meaningless things. You're worried about these mortal concerns that you have. They're useless because you're not going to know about. I was like, hold on. To me, it sounded like she was basically telling Gia, like, you don't got to worry about that because you're going to be this Kamiho for a very long time. So if anyone, let me know what y'all think. Like, what did you get from that whole exchange with the shaman and Uma and Gia? Because I was still sort of kind of confused. I'm like, does this mean that the curse is going to last longer? Does it mean that Uma was just lying? What? I don't know. Was Uma really told this and she was just confused about and the shaman? I don't even know what kind of question I'm trying to ask, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like, I want to know, is this going to be a part of who Gia is when we meet her, hopefully in the next episode, hopefully in America, so that we can see how her and Tick would react to each other. Like, has she done her due diligence? Has she done her duty of taking that last man's soul? And is she now a human, a fully realized human again? You know what I mean? So that's basically it. That's basically how it ended. It was a very good episode. I love that it kind of took us away from the main characters for a while. It was like a bottle episode. However, we then got to see Tick kind of was introduced halfway through it. So we really got to get some understanding of who Gia character is and get some backstory to her before we led into Gia and Tick meeting for the first time. And then the last 30 minutes was the episode they both shared, and we saw how they fell in love with each other. So I thought it was very interesting. I really enjoyed this episode. It was very cute. It was very filmatic in and of itself. The way it was shot, the way that it looked, the acting, the actress who plays Gia, give her things next Emmy season. Like, supporting actress, like, whatever. She needs to get her things. We've seen her in Combat. We've seen her, like, when she was over there, when it was, like, from Tick's, you know what episode I'm talking about. I think it's, like, the third episode. We saw her beating up Tick. We've seen her do some really emotional things. I think she's a really fantastic actress. Please give her things next year, Emmys, Golden Globes, whatever. Give her things because she's deserving. So is Journey Smollett. So is Jonathan Mayers. Like, give them their things. But anyways, that's all that I have for you guys in this video. We're going to get this edited or whatever I'm gonna do with it, and we're gonna throw it up. So yeah, that's all that I have for you guys. Love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.